Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Glad to have you all. We're going to wait a few minutes, let everybody get into the room before we get started. All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Welcome, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending upon where and when you're joining us, or if you're joining us on demand. We're happy to have you. We're here to talk about policy and compliance management, and I am very happy and excited to be joined by Anushree. Anushree, would you like to introduce yourself?
Thanks, Teresa. Hi, everyone. I'm Anushree, and I'm part of the product management team here at ServiceNow. I manage our policy compliance and audit applications, and I'm very excited today because I'll be showing you some of the features that we released in our March store release in San Diego store release.
Fantastic. And I am the director of product marketing for the risk products. So I get to work with Anushree a lot, which is wonderful. We are actually on our 4th webinar in the series. So we have had 3 other webinars, which you can find on the Ask the Experts channel on YouTube. Today is policy and compliance. And we really hope you mark your calendars for next week because we're going to be talking about business continuity management. I think that's going to be really exciting and really interesting. But I know everybody right now is excited and interested to hear about some of the new things that we have in policy and compliance. So without any further ado, I am going to turn it over to Anushree, who is going to walk us through some of those features. And more importantly, she's going to demo them for us.
All right. Thanks, Teresa. I'm going to grab your screen. Can you see my slide?
I can. It looks fabulous.
Awesome. All right. So as I mentioned before, I will be showing you what's coming up, what actually released in March store release. And I'm super excited to demo those features today. So these are some of the features that we released in this store release. One of the features that I'm really excited about is policy authoring integration with Office 365. I will be able to demo you end-to-end flow on that. Then we also released first-line experience through integration with Employee Center. This was covered already by Utkarsh in another webinar. So I'm not going to go over the details here in the demo. Then we also released some enhancement on the control where we are now supporting creation of multiple controls on a specific entity and a control objective. There was a restriction in place, and we are opening it up so you can create multiple granular controls on the same control objective and entity. Then we also released compliance data source registry. This is an integration framework that we are providing, which can be used by customers who want to integrate with our control objectives with any equivalent checks or policies from other ServiceNow products. An example could be a change policy, or there is a new introduction or new policy, which is a codified policy that was released by our DevOps team. So that's called PACE policy. You can integrate with other equivalent policies or checks on other ServiceNow products, and then map or measure the compliance of your control objectives. This also allows you to request exception on those equivalent policies or checks. So this is a framework or integration framework that we released. So I will quickly talk about that or show you how that works based on the time that we have. Then we also did some enhancement on the UCF. I have heard a lot of feedback on this, that if you're using UCF, you would be currently the system has a limitation of only creating or importing the authority documents through the shared list. If they were already downloaded in the platform, you have to add those in the shared list before you download new authority documents from UCF. So we removed that restriction, and this allows you to download more than 100 authority documents through multiple shared lists. So this is an enhancement that we did on the UCF integration side. And finally, we did some enhancements on the security and access side, where we are providing a feature called as confidentiality, which will allow you to mark different records as confidential, and only the users who are assigned on those or are on that record, maybe assigned to or anyone in the watch list or anyone in the assignment group would then have access to this this record. You could add other users as well if you want, who would need access to the confidential record. So that's an enhancement that we did. Another enhancement that we did is user hierarchy. So we enable this feature on a few of the records out of the box. Of course, you can configure it for other records. So if this allows you to provide access to someone higher up in your hierarchy, let's say if you are an issue owner and you're assigned to an issue and your manager does not have direct access to the issue, but they want a visibility into what their reportees are working on. So this allows the manager to actually see or view those issues as well. So these are some of the enhancements that we did. I'm going to start off with the first one, which is policy authoring integration with Office 365. With this feature, we are providing an integration with Office 365, OneDrive, or SharePoint. And this would allow your policy owners, different collaborators or contributors or subject matter expert reviewers to edit and redline the policy in a collaborative fashion using Office 365, Word document, and OneDrive. This provides you a capability to either create a new document on OneDrive or also connect to existing document. If you have a policy document that is stored on OneDrive, you can connect to it using this feature. You can also see different version history of the policy on the policy record. So you will be able to see the previous version of the policy, the previous Word document that was published versus the new one. So we are maintaining the history as well. And finally, you would be able to convert the Word document or the policy text into PDF and attach it to the policy so it can be published as a KB article. So I'm going to take you through the flow quickly so you will understand what are the different changes that we did here. So as a policy owner, I can draft a new policy or I can edit existing published policy by sending it back to draft. So that this is existing functionality, but you can do that through this integration. So the Word document will be ready for your edit again when you send the policy back to draft. We introduced a new role called as contributor, new persona called as contributor, who could be a subject matter expert. So if you're writing, let's say, a security policy, and if you want to invite someone from the security team to help you edit or draft the policy, you would be able to do that. And this user would then get edit access to the Word document on OneDrive. Once the draft is ready, then the policy owner can send this draft to reviewer, and the reviewer then will be able to review the policy. If there are multiple reviewers, they can review it in a more collaborative way on OneDrive and then provide their comments. They perform the redlining on OneDrive, but the same can be retrieved or synced back with the policy text on the policy record. Once the review is done and the policy is ready to be sent for approval, the policy owner goes through a publishing checklist. We added this step in between so that the owner would then make the policy ready for approvers to come in and then approve it. They will get a clean copy of the policy, and then the same can be published automatically when the approvers are done. So once the policy is ready with the and publishing checklist is completed, the owner can then send it to approvers, and approvers then will approve and the policy will be auto-published. So this is the flow, and you can see that we've added the integration with Office 365. We've integrated it through this flow, and you'll be able to see the touch point and how every persona will get edit access or view access to the policy when I get into the demo. So with that, I am actually going to switch to the demo and show you how all this works. I have an example of policy here. This is a blank policy. there are two options that you see here. This is a new tag called as policy text. There are two options here. You can either create a new document on OneDrive, and we are providing a default folder location. This is a property you can set. You can provide, of course, your folder as well as subfolder location where the policy should be stored, and provide the name of the policy, and that will create a blank document on OneDrive. Or you can connect to existing document, which will ask you the folder location of this document and ask you to attach this document. Once you connect it, that's actually going to go ahead and connect with the file on OneDrive. So just for the demo purpose, I have already set this up. So this is my policy, information security policy. What I've done is I have enabled redlining already, and I've connected with a policy which I had stored on OneDrive under this folder. So if I open this one Word document here, it is going to open the OneDrive Word document for me. And if I go back here, there's a document access tab that you can see here. What I've done is I have added various users. If I go back to the details tab here, there are various users who interact with this policy record: owner, approver, reviewer, contributor. So all of them will get access to the document. And here you can see when the policy is in draft state, the contributor and the owner has edit access. As in when policy moves to another state, the access will change, and I'll show that to you. So let's say I have this policy which I've already drafted. It is actually synced back here with the HTML text. So this is where you can actually update your policy whenever you make any changes on the Word document. And the same will be populated here, retaining the format of the document, which you can see here. So the same format, the header, everything is synced back, and the policy shows up as well formatted policy here. So whoever comes to this record will be able to see the latest version of the policy. Now, once the policy is drafted, I can now send it for review. So I can send a message to reviewer.
So we have a question here. Can you actually set up sequential approvals or reviews?
So currently it is not sequential. Currently the approvers and reviewers are sent the notification, and all of them can, reviewers, all of them can come in and review the document and provide their comments. But that's something we might enhance in future to provide like a sequential approval. So if approver one approves the policy, then it will go to another approver. Currently, it is basically all the reviewers will get collaborative access to the Word document, and they can work on it. But based on their comments, whatever they provide, the comments will be captured, and it'll show which approver or reviewer has commented on what part. So that's captured, and then we show that on the policy record as well. But the approvers are sent, the approval records are also sent to all the approvers, but all of them need to approve the policy for it to get published. So, okay. Yeah.
Perfect.
So I'm going to go ahead and send it for review. And once it is sent for review, all the reviewers who are added under that reviewers field that I was showing will now get notified. And any one of them or all of them can come in and start reviewing the policy. Now, if you see, the document access has been changed. So my contributor now has view-only access, but the reviewer has edit access along with the owner. So any review comments, anything added by the reviewer can be seen by the owner, and even they can work with the reviewer in a collaborative fashion. So I'm going to log in here as a reviewer. And as a reviewer, I'm going to go ahead and open this Word document. Once I do that, I will have edit access to the document. I'm going to go ahead and turn on my track changes. It's already turned on. I can either work off of the online document, or I can go ahead and open this up in the desktop app if you're more comfortable with that. So let's go ahead and start editing this policy. Add some comments here.
So are you able to, does it support any of the, any word fonts, all of the word fonts, or is, formatting an issue that just basically is Word, right? I mean,
Yes.
every feature that's available to you in Word is available
Correct.
here.
Correct. That's true.
So do you, just to clarify, did you have to download this Word document and then upload it again, or are you still in the ServiceNow?
So what I did is when I click on open in Word, it just opens the Word document from OneDrive for me. And then this is the online version of Word document,
Mhm.
which I can start editing right here, or as I said, you can open it in desktop app. So you're not downloading the OneDrive Word document, but you're actually opening it on the online version of Word document.
So you really are able to stay within the platform and stay within the
Yes.
product. We're not asking people to jump out of the product and jump back into the product again. So this really is streamlining the whole process. It's making it much simpler and easier for people to be able to add these changes and to have these changes tracked. And then I'm assuming there's an activity log that goes along with this also.
Correct. That's absolutely. So you will be able to see the activity log, what's happening as well here. And like I said, you open it up in Word and it actually just opens another tab.
Awesome.
All right. So what I've done is here is I've added my review comments, and then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and submit my review. And once I do that, the owner will be notified that the review has been submitted. And the comment will be visible in the activity log. So the owner would know which reviewer has submitted and what they can go to the Word document and see the changes as well. The other thing that owner can do is they can again update this document. And once they update the document, you will be able to see that all the comments and the track changes are also synced back with the policy record here. Let me go ahead and try again. All right.
You have to love the internet. Working from home is always challenging, right? When we have internet issues.
That's true.
Or slow internet.
Yep.
In my case.
Yeah, same here. So yeah, it takes you seconds. And then what you see here is the comments and the tag changes are reflected on the policy record here. So whoever is coming to the policy record will be able to see the latest status of the document, and will be able to see all the comments and the red line that was done on the document as well. So now this is done, and let's say all the reviewers have completed their review. Now the policy owner will get this button on top, which is a new one, which is complete publishing checklist. Once I click on that, it is going to give me a checklist, which is sort of a playbook that I have here, which will take me step by step through the process and make sure that I formatted the policy well and it is ready for publishing. So the the block that you see here talks about cleaning up the policy or finalizing the Word document. It asks me to accept or reject track changes, remove open comments, and clean up the document. So I can open up the Word document from here, go to the Word document, and make sure I do that before I actually am sending out for review or approval, sorry. So I'm just going to go ahead and accept the track changes. Let's say I have resolved this comment. I'm going to go ahead and delete this. And once I do that, again, I will go ahead and update my text so that I will see that the text has been reflected and the clean formatting is shown here. So I'm going to go ahead and refresh my page.
So the checklist it's not really for approvers or reviewers. It's really the checklist for the policy owner, right? To be able to make sure that they're doing everything they need to do to make sure the policy is clean and current and available and all of that. So it's really not specific for approvers or reviewers.
Correct. That's true.
So
So it's for the owner to make sure that they format it and the policy is clean before they send it out for approval, final approval.
right, we have a question here. Do end users outside of the policy management team also see the document edits in progress, or are they only seeing a published version?
They will only see the published version. Whoever only has access to this policy record, like owners, contributors, reviewers, approvers, will see the document and will have the access to the document and any changes on them. Once the policy is published, it will be published as a KB article, and that KB article is the one which will be visible to the end users.
Yep, that sounds reasonable.
Okay. So I see that the form policy has been reflected here. The format looks okay. I'm going to mark this as complete, and it'll move on to the next step, which will ask me to check or review the formatting again. What it'll do is it'll unlock that field for me and make it editable. So if I still want to make any changes, I can actually do it here. This shows you how the policy looks like when it is published. So I can make any changes if I want to here and edit the policy text. But I'm good with the policy text. It looks good. So I'm going to mark this as complete. And then it'll move on to the next step, which will ask me to review any attachments if there are on this record. Now, if this is a policy which was republished, I might have some attachments from the older version, which might be outdated. So I want to remove them. I might want to remove them. So those attachments will show up here. Since there are no attachments, I'm just going to mark this as complete, and it will move on to the next step, which will allow me to attach a policy text as PDF. This is an optional step. If you don't want to attach as a PDF, you can skip it, mark it as complete. This also helps with a use case which we have heard from customers, where if there are longer, lengthy policies, customers would not, there were some requirements where customers were not looking to actually add the text on the KB article or the policy text field, but they would like to add it as a policy attachment, and they can just add some generic description, a short description here on this text. So this toggle that you see on the left-hand side will allow you to do that. So if you switch it off, this text will not be synced with the Word document text anymore. You can maintain your separate text from the policy text, and then you can attach the policy as a PDF version on the KB article. So we're providing that option as well. But for the demo purpose, I'm just going to go ahead and say attach PDF, and I would like the policy to be converted into the PDF. Now, if you can see that PDF has been attached to the policy record, if I open that up, this is a PDF version of the document, which then is attached to the policy record. And once the policy is published, the PDF will also be attached to the KB article. Now, the final step I have here is checking my final setting, which is around the publishing setting. To making sure that the policy knowledge base is correct. If I want to change it, I can do that. And the policy template that will be used for published policy or a KB article. So if this looks good, I'm going to mark it as complete. And once everything is done, I went through all the steps to make sure I'm ready for this policy to be published. Once it's approved, I can go ahead and then request approval. So this is my final step where I request approval. And if I want to add more approvers, I can do that here. I can send them a message.
So people really like the checklist. Is the checklist configurable? Can you add additional steps to the checklist?
Yeah, it's a playbook component that is available on Workspace. If you want to configure it and add additional step, you can do that.
Great.
Yep. So I am going ahead and requesting approval. Once I request approval, you can see the document access would be changed, and all the users now have only view access to the document. Because this is in final approval stage, we don't want anyone making changes. Everything is already done, and we are now sending it out for approval, final approval. So I'm going to log in as an approver here and approve this policy. says approver, I will go to my task inbox and I will see that there is one task pending for me, which is policy approval. I'm going to request the policy approval. I can view the text on the policy. So I can go back to the policy and look at the policy text, and that policy text will be available. Basically, I can either go to the policy itself or I can go to the Word document and view the policy. So if the policy looks good, I am going to go ahead and approve it. I can add my comments as well. If it doesn't look good, you can reject it and add your comments, and the policy will move back to draft. And the owner will be notified. As soon as I publish it, a KB article is created and it will show up on the policy as well. So the policy is now published, and if I go under the policy history, I can see that the policy has the KB article associated with it. And it also has the attachment to the Word document which was published. It shows other details as well in the history, like valid from valid to date, when was it approved, who are the approvers, reviewers, and contributors. And this is my policy history tab that is maintained. Now what I'm going to do is I will again log in as policy owner, and I will just show you the the step where the owner would be able to review the policy. Let's say there's an annual review cycle, and send the policy back to draft. So let me log in as policy owner again.
So quick question here, how does, quick question, how does the final approver know exactly what has changed for them to approve? Can they go back to previous versions?
Yeah, so they can go back to previous version, and I'll show it to you in a bit. But let's send it out for review. And the policy will go back to the draft stage, which is where they can again start drafting the policy. Let me actually refresh this policy Word document. On the policy Word document, they do have a way to check the version history. So if you see here, I have the version history here. I can see what the changes were done, let's say by who as well. So it shows me the entire version history of different changes that were done on the policy. And I would be able to check any changes that were done. So approver will also get this view. They can go ahead and view the different versions of the policy and the changes that were done.
So we can see the versions in the Word document.
Yeah.
Nothing really changes from the KB article standpoint, though, as far as versions, right? It just shows it as a KB article.
So if you go into the policy history tab, so this is one way of reviewing on that document. When the approvers will come in, they will be able to review what was changed and what were the different changes done on this document by owner and reviewer. They can also go to the policy history, and if they want to see a previous version of the policy, they can see it from here. So they'll be able to see, let's say this was the now edited draft again. The policy reviewer, if they want to see what was the older version of the policy, they can see it here. So they'll be able to see the older version of the KB article as well as the document, the Word document attachment, and then they can compare that with the current Word document as well.
And then out of curiosity, if for some reason they've decided, you know what, we made some changes and that was a bad idea, can they make a previous version, the current version again?
Absolutely. So the Word document provides you that capability of restoring of different versions. So they can go back to the previous version and restore the version if they want to.
And then one question here, or comment is, so once the policy is published, all controls go back to the draft state.
Okay.
Okay. We've had a bunch of questions. Let's see. I'm not sure. Okay, I'm not quite sure I understand this, but are the older policy versions linked to other modules, for example, past audits? We don't really create any links between the older KB articles and any sort of previous audits that were conducted, correct?
No, we don't do that today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, then so next one here is, how many levels for policy hierarchy can we establish? Will it also showcase policy level 0, 1, 2 parent-child policy relationship? And also from KB article, will policy levels be visible?
Not from the KB article, but if you go to the policy itself, you can create different child policies as well here. If I create a new one, let's say, we show the history today on our overview page. So let me go ahead and show that to you.
So while you're doing that, I want to point out that Industry is using our new Next Experience user interface. So you all can see the drop-down menu at the top that she's pulling down, and you can see the jewel tone on the side, a lot more streamlined. When she goes to the list views, it's only showing her the list of activities that she cares about as a compliance manager. And I don't know if you all noticed, we're not really going to show it this time. Utkar showed it when he was showing risk, but when she went over as a approver, she showed very quickly the new portal that we have, the employee portal that you can use for your frontline employees to be able to manage GRC tasks, IT tasks, legal service delivery tasks. Basically, it's the one-stop shop for all of your employees.
Yep. Absolutely.
All right.
Sorry. So this is where you see the hierarchy of the policy, and you can create multiple hierarchies as well. It is only shown to the policy owners or policy who have access to the policy, but the end users would only see the published KB article, which is the latest published KB article. So if you want to attach any additional documents or sub policies, you would be able to do that through the process I showed you. So if you want to attach any PDF of the child policies or any documents, you would be able to do that and then publish to the KB article.
Awesome.
All right, so that was my end-to-end policy authoring workflow feature. And I'd be happy to take up any questions or connect separately if anyone wants to understand it in more details. I'm going to move on to the next feature. So that is control enhancements. So as I mentioned, we did some architectural changes and we allow now creation of multiple controls or sub-controls on the same entity and the control objective. I'm going to get into the system quickly and show that to you.
So right here, actually, are you getting back over? Next time you show the employee portal, pause for a second so people can actually see what it looks like. You don't have to do it now, but next time you go past it.
Sure, I can do that. All right, so what I have here is an control objective, implement approve changes. It is associated with the change management policy. And under this control objective, I have about 79 controls. Now, this is a control of which I'm going to take this example here. So the control or the control objective is associated with the entity type under which there are various entities. And because of this association, we have all these controls created automatically from that entity type. Now, for all these control objective, you will notice there's a new field that was added, inherit from control objective. And by default, when a new control is created automatically, we mark that inherit from control objective field as true, which means that we are automatically creating this control from the control objective. The name of the control would be same as the control objective. And that's an auto-generated control that we have, the feature that we have today. Now, if you saw in the older architecture, once a control is created on an entity and a control objective, I won't be able to create another control for the same entity and a control objective combination. But now with the new feature, if I go ahead and create a new control here, and let's say I do use the same entity. Go ahead and let me use something else. Maybe this entity is not active in this instance.
Yeah, SAP Financial Accounting seems to be everybody's go-to
Yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and activate
go-to entity.
Yep, this was inactive for
So
some reason.
things get changed all the time on that poor entity.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and do that again. This time it should show me because I've activated it. So once I do that, you notice that I have implement approved changes control objective and the entity SAP Financial Accounting. I haven't checked inherit from control objective checkbox this time. And what I am going to do is I'm going to write or probably name this particular control differently. So this is my more granular control, which where I'm saying implement approved changes with backout plans, right? So I am going to go ahead and save it. And once I save it and it's asking me to fill up the mandatory fields, I'm going to go ahead and assign it out to an owner.
That's one of the things I like about the system is that it doesn't let you pass something to the next level without providing all the information it needs to be able to do what it needs to do later. So in effect, you're not providing insufficient or insufficient amount of information.
Correct. Absolutely. So if you notice here, I have another control created for the same entity and the same control objective combination. Here, the inherit from control objective field is marked as false, and which means that you're manually creating it and you're not basically copying the same name as control objective. You can create multiple controls as you want on the same control objective and entity. So that's the feature and the change we did on the control side. If there are any questions, let me know.
There are, yeah, absolutely. Give me a couple questions. So how do you prevent duplicate controls from being created accidentally?
Yeah, so we do check, there's a unique constraint on the name. So we do check if there's another duplicate control creator with the same name, we don't allow that. So that's how we handle it.
Could existing controls allow you to uncheck the inherit from control objective selection?
Existing control, if they're automatically created, and that's where we mark it as inherit from control objective is true. If you want to uncheck that, you might be able to, but if they're automatically created on a control objective, then we actually make it read only, because that's basically done through automation, which means that you've chosen that control to be created automatically using your item generation.
Again, trying to keep you from making mistakes that might cause problems down the line.
Okay.
So you've got these two controls. The question here is, how can several controls contribute to a compliance score of one control objective?
So the compliance score logic doesn't change. Your controls are still considered when you're calculating the compliance score. So any controls that are associated with control objective, the compliance or the average of all the compliance and non-compliance status of the control will be considered and rolled up at the control objective level and at the policy level and so on.
Got it. I think that are the questions right now.
Awesome. Then I'm going to move on to the next feature, which is security and access enhancement. I know there were a few questions around it. And I'm going to first of all show you what we've done here. So the first feature is providing a way to restrict access to a certain record by marking it as confidential. And then the second is visibility into the records in the user hierarchy. And then there was a question around, can I mark all the records confidential by default? You could do that. We don't do that by default on the system. But if you want, you can probably choose and allow or add a business rule or a logic to actually mark all of them as confidential. The confidential, if you mark it as confidential, then it becomes very restrictive. So you have to be careful which records you want to mark as confidential and not. But you would be able to do that if you want to. Let me go ahead and show you an example of.
You got ahead of me. I was going to ask you that question. You're too good.
All right, so. Okay. Second, this needs to be logged in again.
Lots of instances.
Yeah.
That's the downside of having multiple instances, is figuring out which one has what in it.
Okay. Give me 1 second.
So we have a lot of other enhancements that Anushree, spoke to at the very beginning in her long list of enhancements that we're not going to actually showcase. But if anyone had any questions about anything about what they saw earlier, I'm sure she could touch on those. For example, the UCF enhancements that we've done, the hierarchy, any of that would be fair game. And again, I'm putting in the chat the link to the Ask the Experts channel, and I will put a link to our BCM webinar next week. We do have a question here. How can we see how the policy looks as a knowledge article and what the UX is for people looking at policies? So maybe you go back to that after you're done with this.
Yeah, I'll have to see if I have an instance where it's configured on Service Portal, but yeah, I can show that to you. So here is an example of confidentiality feature where I have this particular issue. And if I mark this as confidential, what it does is it by default captures whoever the users are on this particular issue, assigned to or assignment group or issue manager. These names get populated into the allowed user and allowed group by default. And if you want to add more, you can do that as well. What it does is it's going to bypass the ACL at the issue table level and allow only these users who are mentioned in this particular fields and give them access to the record. So that's my confidentiality feature. And the other feature that I spoke about was the user hierarchy. So if I have, let's say, assigned to user here, which is Karen Zombo in this case, if Karen has a manager who actually does not have direct access to this issue, right? The manager of Karen is not an issue manager or is not assigned to issue, or it's not even, let's say, compliance manager or a compliance user, but they will get access or visibility into the issue or the record, which Karen is actually working on. So that's the user hierarchy feature. What we've done is we have enabled it for these tables. So the confidentiality features are enabled by default on issue, observation, engagement, audit task, evidence request task, and remediation task. But if you want, you can configure these for other tables as well. And by default, these are the users and groups we populate in the confidential users and group fields. So this is a list of all of them. And these are two records that we have the user hierarchy enabled for out of the box, issue and remediation tasks. So issue manager or issue owner, the manager of these users will get access to issue, and the manager of assigned to will get access to remediation task. So this is enabled by default, but you can enable it for other tables as well.
Awesome.
All right. Any other question on this?
Not on this one, no. Once you get back to an instance, when people are interested in the unified view, I don't know if you have at the top where you have compliance workspace, if you can click on that. Do you have any other workspaces that are up there at all in this instance?
Sorry,
There we go. Okay, so this allows you to move between workspaces very
Right.
easily. It consolidates everything in one place.
Yeah.
And then, yep. And then if you are a business user, we have the Employee Center portal that allows those users to be able to do acts like policy acknowledgements, policy exceptions, risk events. You can also use it for IT, legal service delivery, but that is the employee service portal or the Employee Center, depending on who you're speaking to. You also view your policies there. We also have the virtual chat bot is there in the bottom right-hand corner. So if you wanted to use our chat bot to be able to do something or look up a policy, you could do that also. So it is sort of the one-stop shop for your business users. And this is the Employee Center portal.
Yeah. So this is the Employee Center portal. I know Utkarsh has gone over it, but I'll quickly go over it as well. So as an end user, we've built this portal, which is actually a common portal between different products. So if you're using ITSM and you have incidents, problems, they'll show up here. As soon as the risk and compliance applications are installed, you'll be able to see this menu on top, risk and compliance. And this will take you to the risk and compliance page where you can report an issue, you can request an exception, or you can report a risk event quickly from here. And going back to my homepage again, you'll be able to now see the GRC tasks that are listed here. Any GRC assessments, if I click onto it, it'll show you a list of control attestation. Let's take an example of, let's say, implement approved changes. We've done some enhancement again on the attestation as well. I think previously we've heard a lot of feedback from customers that we need more contextual information about the attestation. So we are providing the description of the control, the entity it is related to, the control objective it is associated, that information here. So you can actually understand what this control attestation is about, which was not available in the older service portal before. So that's one thing. And then once you go to GRC tasks, it actually takes you to the risk portal where you can see as a business or end user, you have a list of tasks that are assigned to you, and you can go through all of them and perform them here. So this is the same inbox sort of view, which are your compliance managers or your second line business users also get it. So that is my GRC task page. And going back to Employee Center, I see other things. So if I want to request, I have, for example, requested an exception or reported an issue, they all will show under my request. So I can quickly go to the issue that I've reported and see the details here, who it is assigned to, what is the issue source, what is the priority. I can talk to the user who is triaging the issue or managing the issue and quickly take actions from here. So this is my end user or employee view that I have here.
We do have one question. I was hoping for some clarification. But and I'm not quite sure what you were showing at the time, but the question is, who should be listed as the issue manager?
So issue manager is usually someone with a compliance role, either a compliance analyst or a compliance manager, who is, or on audit side, let's say an audit manager or an auditor, who is responsible for reviewing the issue and making sure that the issue is resolved end to end. The assigned to is a business user who the issue is assigned to. So they are actually working on it, but the manager is the reviewer or the accountable person who oversees the issue and makes sure that it is resolved.
Got it.
All right. So that's the employee portal. There are other few features. One of them is compliance data source registry. I'm going to quickly show you an example of what exactly we are doing here. So this is my data source registry. It is basically a way for providing a quick form which can be used by anyone to integrate with our control objective. What I'm doing here is I am integrating with the policy as a code engine, the policy equivalent or codified policy that is that is a product or an application which is developed by our DevOps team. What I'm doing here is I am writing or I'm actually selecting the application table I want to associate my control objectives with. In this case, it's a PACE policy. And what this basically tells you, a step-by-step process to identify which is the entity equivalent on this policy that you've connected with, so that we could generate entities and controls automatically from our side. So it just takes you step by step. It just takes you through the process to identify what is the equivalent entity. In this case, there are entities associated with which are identified as application service, which are associated with this policy, which they call it as deployable, which is nothing but like a test instance or a dev instance or a production instance, and an application service associated with it. So here what I've done is I've just configured everything here. And once I do that, this is how it's going to show up. So if I go to a control objective, I see this related list DevOps config policy. And if I click on it, it actually shows me a checks or a policy, which is a PACE policy, which is equivalent of a policy that I can connect with my control objective. Now, this is an example of DevOps config policies. You can connect with, say, configuration compliance checks if you have the config compliance product installed from security. This allows you to associate this particular equivalent policy with control objective. And then what we do on our side, because you've configured your data source registry, we identify, or we already know what are the equivalent entities, and we generate the entities automatically as well as the control automatically. So then now you can start monitoring these controls based on the connection between the PACE policy, for example, any other policy, and the control objective. So this is where we connect a control objective with any ServiceNow product which has an equivalent check or a policy, and start monitoring the compliance against those policies. So this is a quick integration framework that we are providing, which can be used by for these integrations.
Yeah, and we're going to see more on this in an upcoming webinar.
Yes, absolutely. And last thing is UCF enhancements. I already went through it. I'm not going to go through the details. I'll probably pause here to see if there are any questions that I can take up in last 5 minutes.
No, actually, this has been wonderful. I really appreciate all the interaction and the engagements. We know we're going to be showing a couple more slides here. So if you have questions, still post those questions. But nope, there's nothing there right now.
Okay.
There is, this is a question. Is there a session for changes to the audit module? We will be doing more sessions later on. You know, watch the community channel to see the new upcoming sessions. I did post in chat. There's an upcoming one next week for BCM. So we will be having more sessions in the future. Let me go ahead and steal. Oh, we've got some more to show.
Yeah, no, so I just wanted to highlight on that. So what we did in this release, in March release, the changes that we did on audit were more around related to security features. We didn't add any new feature as such on the audit. So if there was a question specifically for audit, these are the enhancement that we did, more around enabling the confidential feature on engagement, observation, audit tasks, evidence requests. So this is enhancement that we did along with, of course, the new user interface, the Polaris user interface that you see here is now enabled for the entire platform, including audit modules. So those are the only changes that we did in this March release for audit. But if there are any other questions, I'm happy to take them up.
Well, that's absolutely true. We'll be having another release in August. So there'll be more there, and a few things maybe even in May. Or I don't see any more questions. Can I go ahead and steal the screen from you?
Yep, absolutely.
All right. I'm gonna grab the screen here. And just very briefly, if you guys can keep asking questions, we still want to see your questions. Do you see my screen demonstrate?
We do, yeah.
Wonderful. Just want to make sure that you can still connect with us. We love talking to you. We love sharing what we're doing with you. We're very passionate about it. We hope that you guys are excited about it too. You can always visit us on the product page at servicenow.com/risk. The Ask the Experts webinars are out there on the playlist, on the chat. You can learn more about policy and compliance. We have a page just dedicated to it. And of course, we're always posting things on the community. We thank you very much for joining us. We really appreciate you taking the time. I don't see any more questions right now. So I just want to thank everybody. Thank you, Anushree.
Thanks, everyone.
All right. Have a wonderful afternoon, evening, and we look forward to seeing you again, hopefully next week and in future Ask the Experts.